and we're in chapter 9, at the end of chapter 9, verse basically starting through 13 through 18. So I will read this in the ESV. Okay? So this is, I have also seen this example of wisdom under the sun, and it seemed great to me. There was a little city with few men in it, and a great king came against it and besieged it, building great siege works against it. But there was found in it a poor wise man, and he, by his wisdom, delivered the city. Yet no one remembered that poor man. Okay, we're going to stop right there for a second. So, right at 15. So, Solomon is talking about something that he might have seen, maybe, or maybe he's something that he had heard before. But this is another example of wisdom. Well, first off, there's a king, right? A great king that is coming against a little city. So we have to first ask the question, why? It's okay. It's just shepherd. So why is this great king coming against a little city? In the Amplified, Mary, do you have the Amplified? You don't? Okay. In the Amplified, it says, oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Verse 13?
Yes.
15?
Yep.
This illustration of wisdom I have seen under the sun, and great it was to me. There was a little city with few men in it, and a great king came against it, and besieged it, and built great battlements against it. But there was found in it a poor wise man, and by his wisdom he rescued the city, yet no man seriously remembered that poor man.
Okay. So pretty much the same thing, right? One of the verses, or maybe it was one of the commentaries that I'm looking at, but basically a little city doesn't have much in it. So why would a great king want to come against a little city? Any thoughts? Easy target, right? Easy target. Maybe they said something about him that he didn't like. Maybe he just wanted to prove a point. Maybe he just wanted to make an example of them, right? A little city, big quote-unquote big king, right? Like somebody who might think that they're big, you're talking battle. It's not a small feat to make bulwarks against like a city. Like you're leveling forests. There's a lot of man hours involved in there, a lot of stuff that you have to do all of those things. And he's basically besieging the city for nothing, right? So the wisdom part comes in because the poor wise man is smart enough to help save the city. Doesn't tell how he saves the city. He just had some wisdom, and it's obviously not important of how he saved the city, except that through him they were able to save their city. So there's a couple of examples here in this. Ecclesiastes 4:13 shows us, it goes back into basically Solomon talking here. 4:13, it says, a poor yet wise youth is better than an old and foolish king who no longer knows how to receive instruction and counsel. So here we have a poor wise youth is still better than that king that doesn't take counsel. Like, you have to think that the military advisors in 15, right, or 13 through 15, the military advisors for this king are probably like, why are you doing this, right? Like, you're wasting a lot of manpower and a lot of energy and a lot of resources to do this for nothing. You're not going to gain anything. Even if, like, can you imagine, though, like, even if he did win, what good would it have done him, right? Like, all the other kings and other kingdoms would have been like, so you took out Bradenton, right? Or you got Parrish, right? Like, wow, good job. You know, those, yes, sir. Please do. Please do.
I think just that this is a prophetic statement. This is a prophetic picture of the Bible.
Okay.
So the small city would be like Adam and Eve in the garden,
Hmm.
and the great king being Lucifer coming in, besieging it. He kind of went to war in the heavens.
True,
First
sure.
before that, he was cast down. So he kind of went against what was all good
Mm.
before that. Sent here, then he besieged that, but then this poor wise man, which I believe is Jesus, because he basically emptied himself of his godhead and came as a man with God, all that whole story.
Yeah.
And he actually then redeemed the city, which we are actually the city. In Revelation, we become the city of the Lord, kind of thing. So he dwells in us and all that stuff. So I think this is a prophetic picture of what went down from the beginning to the end, and Jesus doing his thing.
So, any other thoughts? Comments? Questions?
I think also it can be a lesson for us as Christians. If, we do it because we love Christ. We don't do it because of the recognition that we are going to get.
Sure. Yeah, the poor wise man doesn't ask for anything in return.
Sounds like Jesus.
But that's not why we do what we do.
Yeah. Because even Jesus didn't need accolades. He just came here to do the will of the Father and did his work. And like if anyone's watched Chosen, there's people that are like, we need to get you rich, we need to go over with this and take over and all this stuff. And the question is like, you don't understand
Right.
why I'm here, what I'm doing.
Right.
So much bigger than what physically you can see here. But
So then in 16, it says, let me read 15 again. But there was found in a poor wise man, and by his wisdom he rescued the city. Yet no man remembered that poor man. But I say that wisdom is better than strength. Though the poor man's wisdom is despised and his words are not heeded, the words of wise men heard in quietness are better than the shouting of one. Where was I? The shouting of one who rules among fools. Wisdom is better than weapons of war, but one sinner destroys much good. So I have in my notes that shouting and coercion will not work. And I've been in part of businesses where the manager or the person in charge is like always wants to get something done real quick, and they think that raising their voice and shouting is going to get me to move faster, right? And I will admit, I can be that way myself sometimes, because I can get really loud really quick, and I can try to get things moving along, right? But it is much better to use a quiet word than to try to shout and yell for coercion. Okay, how is this? I have this as a question for you guys. How is this either same or different from Romans 1, 21, 22, and 23? Does anybody want to read that for me? Romans 1, 21, 22, and 23. Okay. Whenever you get there. 1, 21 through 23.
For although they knew God, they neither glorified him as God nor gave thanks to him. But their thinking became futile, and their foolish hearts were darkened. Although they claimed to be wise, they became fools, and exchanged the glory of the immortal God for images made to look like mortal human beings, and birds, and animals, and reptiles.
So, 13 through 18, how do you think that ties in with Romans 1, 21, 22, and 23? Any thoughts? Brent, you want to say something?
Yes, I was just pondering this.
Yes.
There's something simple.
Yeah.
You might think evil people do evil things.
Evil people do evil things.
Doesn't have to make any sense. If they want to stop somebody, they stop somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't take advice because their hearts are hard. And when you have a hard heart, you don't even listen to God.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, that pretty much hits it right on the head. Like, evil is foolishness, right? That the idea of being evil is foolishness, and they gave over the evil gives over into foolishness and changes the way that they worship, the way that they do things, all of that. So it's just a kind of a trick question, but it was good. Okay. Any other thoughts on this saying of the poor wise man and the great king?
Well, they wanted to not acknowledge Jesus, and there are still many that don't want to acknowledge Jesus and what he actually has done. So it's kind of that same deal. They're foolish because of not acknowledging him.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
That's in simple terms.
Yeah, no, that's good. All right, let's go into 10. All right, this is, I like this one. I like 10, it's fun. Okay. Dead flies make the oil of the perfumer give off a foul odor. So a little foolishness in one who is esteemed outweighs wisdom and honor. Pretty self-explanatory there, I guess, right? Dead flies in the ointment. And I get distracted sometimes easily. I'm not gonna lie. And I was like, is this where the saying "the fly in the ointment" comes from? And so I like Googled it real quick, and it was like, yep, sure enough, this is where they got the saying "the fly in the ointment." And I was like, okay, that's cool. That's good to know. So now you all know, so you don't get distracted later on. That's where the saying "the fly in the ointment" comes from. And then I also have in here for my notes, problems stink sometimes. You know, so that's just my own interpretation there. So dead flies make the oil of the perfumer give off a foul odor. So a little foolishness in one who is esteemed outweighs wisdom and honor. And this can go so many different ways, right? Like somebody who is perceived to be wise, right? Like, let's say, Brent, I'm going to pick on you, okay?
That's fine.
Okay. Mary will hit me, so I have to go with. So, Brent, if you were considered wise, which I think you are, but you made a public mistake, right? That public mistake, like maybe you said something or you did something that was not wise, right? That is where this is going, right? Because it's that the perfume itself, the wisdom itself, has a great fragrance, and the perfumer knows how to make the perfume smell good, right? He's no fool. He's obviously a perfumer. He knows what he's doing. But somehow he let a fly get into the ointment. He let the fly die and rot in there. And it changed the actual scent of the perfume. And now, would you buy perfume from a perfumer that might have let that happen? No, why not? Because it stinks, right? And that whole perfume probably, I don't know the refining process of perfume. I did not take the time. I know, shock. I learned where fly in the ointment came from, but I did not learn the process of refining perfume. For some reason, please forgive me. But I'm pretty sure that they would have had to throw all of that perfume away, right? Especially in this time. So, did you have something?
I was going to say, it's
Go ahead.
similar to the parable of the leaven. It's like the little bit of leaven in the bread
You're getting ahead of me now.
Sorry.
No, that's good. No, that's exactly where we're going. Actually, that's actually exactly where we're going with it. So, go ahead and read. I think it's 1 Corinthians 5:6. Is that, or is it Matthew 9:18? I can't remember. I didn't write down the. I wrote down several different verses that had to do with this, but I'm going to let you read 1 Corinthians 5:6. And then I'm going to go back to Ecclesiastes 7.
1 Corinthians 5:6.
Yes.
And I am reading from the NLT.
Okay.
Your boasting about this is terrible. Don't you realize that this sin is like a little yeast that spread through the dough, through the whole, oh my gosh, little yeast that spreads through the whole batch of dough.
Right. So a little bit of yeast. You have two. Who's a baker? You bake, right? And you bake. You bake.
I bake.
Do you need a lot of yeast or a little bit of yeast? If you use too much yeast, what's the problem? I'm not. It tastes bad. If you have too much yeast. If you have just the right amount of yeast, it's okay. Yeah. Yeah. You can all say yes and shout me down. I'm good. I'm good. So, okay. So a little bit of yeast, okay, but too much yeast, not good. Goes through the whole loaf and ruins it probably, right? Okay, so I'm going to read Ecclesiastes 7:1. A good name is better than a precious perfume, and on the day of one's death better than the day of one's birth. So again, we're going with the perfume idea. You know, a good name is better than a precious perfume. So Brent, if you gave some horrible advice or did something dumb, right? And all of your wisdom that was perceived out there, it would be thrown away, right? Because of your... No, why not? We're, it should not be what? Ruined.
Because we've owned a wise person, if they make a mistake, they're hopefully going to be convicted by the Holy Spirit, they're going to repent, and they're going to ask for forgiveness publicly.
Okay.
That's what Proverbs says. It says a wise man falls 7 times and gets back up.
Okay.
So it's the same.
That's good.
If it relates to guarding your salvation, because he's a perfumer, he should have known, he should have protected the perfume.
Oh, that's a different thought as well. That's good.
It would be like if you are trying to walk with God, but you let bitterness take root in you, and that can totally take you down a different path
Sure.
and ruin the whole situation.
Right. Yes. Now, I'm going to agree on both points in that sense. Like, if the big thing there is if, right? If you have the Holy Spirit and you allow the Holy Spirit to convict you, then yes, those things should happen. But if you let bitterness take root, it can derail you. It could make your whole walk, your whole ministry sour.
Well, like any sin can be like that.
Well, yes.
If you leave the door open for the enemy instead of guarding your salvation,
Yeah,
then
that's really good.
it can take over.
I didn't even have that in my notes. That's great. I love it.
That's kind of what we see the Pharisees too. It's like they miss Jesus because they didn't see him. They refused to see him.
Yes.
So, and they knew a lot. They had a lot of wisdom, but they're really foolish. Sorry.
Too much self-righteousness.
Separate, yeah.
Too much self-righteousness. Let me look up this verse real quick to make sure that this is the one because I'm pretty sure that this is the one. Matthew. I'm sorry, I do not have my new glasses, so yes, it is Matthew 16:6, where Jesus says, "Watch out and be on your guard against the leaven of the Pharisees and Sadducees," right? So we get that leaven tied in again. And that leaven, not good leaven, obviously, right? Bad. Not gonna do it. All right. I have a couple other things. So, can you think of anyone in the Bible that possibly allowed flies to come in the ointment? All just give it. Okay. Judas, yeah. No, she said all of them. Solomon. Solomon did too, right? I have.
Can I say who did it?
Jesus, right. So I have Esau with his birthright, right? You have Moses striking the stone when he wasn't supposed to. Aaron building the cow, right? So all of these things were all like, right? We go, really? Come on, right? Well, sure. Okay. So, and then I thought it was interesting as well that Eve, actually Adam, yes. I thought it was interesting that Beelzebub is the lord of the flies, right? So, wow, you see how I tied that in there? Yeah.
So did you let Beelzebub into your ointment?
No, I hope not. I try not to. Okay, as we move on, verse 2. Man, we just made it through one verse in Ecclesiastes. That's great in 10. Okay. I was packing up all of my stuff and had my Bible sitting right there. And of course I forgot it right next to where I was working on everything. So thank goodness I did have my phone. All right. A wise man's heart turns him toward the right, but a fool's heart turns him towards the left. Even when a fool walks along the road, his common sense and good judgment fail him, and he demonstrates to everyone that he is a fool. Okay, first off, who's left-handed here? Heather, you're the only one? Wow. All right. I'm not going to... So, I will say this. The commentary on these verses, I've looked through a lot of commentary to see what they were talking about. Some go back and talk about how left-handed people were not thought of very well, and I'm sure you already know all of this. Yeah, being a left-handed person, my mom's left-handed, so that she got beat when she was in school because they wanted her to not write with her left hand and all that stuff. Yeah. Oh, it's crazy. I've met Heather. I know this. So, yes. I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. What's that? But then some of them were talking about how on the right hand, in biblical terms, the right hand was seen as a sign of blessing, and left-handed was a sign of just being in tune with the flesh, not spiritual. So it wasn't like I've come to the conclusion that that whole left-handed, right-handed thing was not like it wasn't meant to be a slight to left-handed people at all. So you're safe, Heather. All right. So, but I did want to bring this point up, which I found was actually very interesting, that the word for sinister in Latin is the meaning for left. So, sinistrum is on the left, or the left hand of darkness. So, sinister, which we get our word from, is basically lefting, on the left. So, very interesting, huh? So, anyway. I know, I just find it odd, these things. Again, I got distracted, I'm not going to lie, okay? It was like I wanted to find out about left-handed things and then go from there. All right, so back to 3. Even when a fool walks along the road, his common sense and good judgment fail him, and he just demonstrates to everyone that he is a fool. Has anyone ever seen someone who they think is foolish walk along the road? Mary, you laugh. Right?
Just drive down 14th Street.
Drive down 14th Street. Like, ride your bike on the wrong side of the road, ride into traffic, like,
Bike with a mask on, alone. I was like, what? That's not even a wise idea.
like no lights on your bike at night, wearing all black when you're on the side of the road, like all of these things, like all foolishness, right? While you're walking, right?
Chris,
Yes, ma'am.
I actually seen something that obviously was from foolishness. It was very heartbreaking, actually. We were driving down 70, coming home from Walmart, and over by Wawa or something, or Marketplace Walmart, there was a lady sprawled out dead on the road.
Oh.
There was, ambulance and everything, but she had died. She got hit by a car. I think she was a homeless lady. That she put on the clothes all the time. And sorry, I got distracted by all my crazy.
You're good.
But it was just very heartbreaking. Isaiah was riding bike actually.
Yeah, I remember when this happened.
Yeah, he actually seen it up close. And I was just driving by. But I mean, that just like made my heart sink.
Yo, yeah.
A lady just laying there, gone. It really does. It's like a wake up call for sure when you see stuff like that.
And that's-
It just hits you hard,
You pray that is like something that is far and few between, right? You really do pray that, and it's still foolishness, right? You allow yourself to get,
Or something maybe.
yeah.
Yeah.
So my main point on that was fools will demonstrate their foolishness in so many different manners, so many different ways, right? They will definitely display that. Let me make sure. So, Danny, can you look up Proverbs 13:16? And then, would somebody like to look up something else for me? I need Proverbs 18:2. You got that, Heather? Okay. And then I need Matthew 25, and this is 31 through 41. Anybody else got that? Okay. All right. What's that? Matthew 25, 31 through 41. So, Danny, can you read Proverbs 13:16?
Sure. Wise people think before they act. Fools don't, and even brag about their foolishness.
There you go. Okay, so I've done some pretty foolish things in my life. Okay, I've jumped off bridges 50 feet high without anything but water underneath me, and I've lived to do it, and I hurt myself pretty bad, and I will never ever recommend people doing something like that. I've done stupid things in life. Okay, fools will what? Brag about what they do. There's a difference between bragging and warning someone. Okay, okay. There, I will say that. Yes, ma'am.
Zach actually just had a friend say, "Do you want to go bridge jumping for your birthday off the tall bridges?" He's like, "Well, I don't want to die."
No, right?
No, thank you.
No.
Somebody's kind of wise in that area, right?
Right. Yeah, you.
He's a pretty wise guy.
Yes. Okay.
His friend, no.
No. Well, I mean, he had the idea. Did he do it though?
Maybe. Hopefully he was joking.
Hopefully he was joking, right? Okay. Proverbs 18:2.
Fool takes no pleasure in understanding, but only in expressing his opinion.
Okay. That's very good too. So, fool. Say that again one more time.
Takes no pleasure in understanding, but only in expressing his opinion.
So basically, a fool doesn't want to hear other people's opinion and understand them, even consider them, and will only express his own. Yes. I've known people like that. Yeah, I still do know people like that. Yes. All right. Chad, you got 25? 31 through 41. I gave you. I'm so sorry.
Alright, here comes the funny test. When the Son of Man comes in his glory, and all the angels with him, he will sit on his glorious throne. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he
Good. Okay. So,
You want to go 41 as well?
no, you're good. Well, I think 41 is basically them saying, depart from me, the fools, right? Okay. So, what wisdom and foolishness? Wisdom is we look at things that are in need. We look at things and we do that without having to be prodded and, poked and made to conform and do these things. Whereas the foolish will see things and question, why does it need to be done, right? So that's where we're going with that. So, as we move on, any questions or comments before we move on to the next chapter? Or next verse, I mean. No? Okay. Let me go back to... All right. Verse 4. Even when a fool walks along... Oh, that was 3. Okay. If the temper of the ruler rises against you, do not leave your post, because composure and calmness prevent great offenses. Okay. There's a lot. So, when I was reading this, I had what's the right word? A Marxist idea. I know, right? This is a big thing. So, what's that? So, because knowing how Marx felt about the Bible and what he thought about those ideas, he didn't like the Bible. He thought it was there to control the people and to basically do that. Now, there's a lot of commentary that talks about, especially chapter 10 in Ecclesiastes, that Solomon is talking about how to be, what's the right way to say it? How to be ruled well, basically, right? How do you put up with being ruled with an evil ruler or someone who doesn't agree with you or something like that? And you can look at this without the Holy Spirit, without understanding what the Bible is talking about, and see why Marxist and communist ideologies would say something like that, right? Because in here, it's basically saying, if the Lord does something, not the Lord, but the Lord of the land does something that you don't agree with, be quiet and stay there and take it. That's what it's basically telling you. And in a roundabout sense, that is what the Bible is saying. But there's actually more to that in a different sense, because what it's actually saying is compose yourself. Take heed and have calmness in what you're about to do. Don't just fly off the handle because somebody makes you mad, whether it be somebody over top of you in a position or the Lord of the land or something like that. Don't just go crazy and become a fool, right? Be wise. Control your anger. Control your frustration, where this is not. So, Proverbs 29:11, and I'll read this since everybody else has been reading so much. Proverbs 29:11 says, "A fool always loses his temper and displays his anger, but a wise man holds it back." Okay? So we can see where having composure and calmness will relate you or relegate you to being a wise man, whereas flying off the handle and letting everybody know how you feel without thinking and composing yourself is foolishness, right? I have in my notes, don't argue with the rulers, okay? But that's not what it's saying in that sense. It is saying that, but it's saying think before you do it, right? Think about it. Any comments before I go on? Yes, sir. Please.
It says, do not leave your post. So in other words, disagree with your boss,
Yes.
So that it is not an open rebellion against the Lord or your boss is or whatever the situation is. That's what I put in there too.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Be humble, do your job,
Mm-hmm.
and hope you don't get fired.
Or worse, right? Okay. Yeah, that's very true. I thank you for adding that, because it is a very important part. Do not leave your post, right? Don't just go off and be angry and then rail against whoever it was, because it looks bad on yourself. Okay, verse 5. There is an evil I have seen under the sun, like an error which proceeds from the ruler. Okay, so this is Solomon saying that he has seen this in leaders of the land. This is not, again, talking about, because some versions say from the Lord or from a Lord. It's not spiritual here. This is against government leaders, basically. Folly is set in many exalted places, and in great dignity, sit in humble places. Again, this is so this is a couple. Folly, or the fools, are exalted into a place of position and authority, where the rich, and this is not always meant to be the people that are wealthy or the people that are, that have more, but that that basically have a better understanding of the world. I'm old, okay, and I remember a TV commercial, and I don't remember, I think it was for an investment group. I can't remember exactly which investment group it was for, but it was an old man walking down the stairs, and he's like, we make money the old-fashioned way. We earn it, right? So if anybody knows what that was from, I didn't look that up myself, but I put that with the same idea of being wise, right? Because they're not just, it's like that, I guess back in the day, when people were making money hand over fist really quickly, the wealthy in the land would relegate the people between the old money and the new money, right? And the old money people were the ones that were generally more wise, or that had a better understanding of how to handle money. And the people with the new money, the quick money, were the ones who were the fools, basically, because they were the ones who oftentimes were burning through it really quickly and didn't have an understanding of the social implications or what to be doing with that money or those things, right? Or the position that it put themselves in, right? So they were just kind of going through it. Now, that's not to say that there wasn't foolishness with the old money as well, but more times out of not, the people who understood the implications of what their wealth did and the social things that they were told is what this is talking about. The fools have no idea what's going on in the world. They don't care about what's going on in the world. All they care about is what that position and that place that the foolish ruler gave them, right? They were able to take bribes, they were to get women easier, they were to get better deals on things, whatever, right? Whereas the rich ruler that would have been in that position understood the things that needed to be done and to help the people. Any questions? Comments? No? Okay. All right, moving along. I have seen slaves riding on horses and princes walking like slaves on the ground. Basically, it goes along with the same last verse, right? You're seeing the people who are servants doing and have the area of prestige that the people that aren't wise to the things of what needs the government or the community or whatever to have, being put in a position above. Because, back in the day, horse riding was considered prestigious. I think it still is kind of prestigious as being somebody who's never ridden a horse in my life, but that's just one of those things. I'm like, I look up at, and I'm like, and we still see it in governments, right? You see like royalty and guards riding the horses and things like that. So there's this prestige about that. So that's where that is. Okay. Now the fun stuff in chapter 10. He who digs a pit may fall into it, and a serpent may bite him who breaks through a stone wall. He who quarries stones may be hurt with them, and he who splits logs may be endangered by them. So, before I get in there, anybody want to say anything about digging pits? No? I've done it. So as a kid, my parents just kind of shoved me outside, right? They were like, here, go play outside. And I'm going to tell you a story about when I was a kid. So, if you couldn't tell. So I'm going out there and I get a shovel because I'm bored and I want to dig a ditch because why not? I have nothing else to do. So I dig this ditch and I go and I dig it, and it's probably not a ditch anymore. It's now a hole in the ground that is probably 4 feet deep by 4 feet wide. And then I'm like, I just got done watching Tarzan. What if I put sticks over this thing? That would be so cool if I caught an animal in this. Heather's shaking her head like, oh boy. So I get as many sticks and palm fronds and different things that I can put over this thing, and I'm like, I'm going to catch me something good in this, right? And I'm like going through, and then I forget about my hole. And I forget about my hole for several weeks, right? I'm just like, whatever, no big deal. And I have some friends over, and we're all running around stupid, and our dad knows where this is going. And I'm like, we're running around the yard. We're probably shooting each other with BB guns, if I'm being honest. Not really hard, I promise. So we were doing stupid things because, we were kids. And sure enough, one of my friends fell in that pit. It worked! But let's just say that he who digs a pit may fall into it. I didn't fall into it, but the person, can fall into it. And the scary part is this is in Florida, so we didn't know. Like, afterwards, I was telling my dad about it or whatever, and he was like, you're lucky a rattlesnake didn't make that its home, because they like cool places to sleep sometimes. And I'm like, oh, that's not good. It was really cool, though, I will admit. It was really nice and cool from the summer. But anyway, say, he who digs in the pit for others may fall into it. It said may, right? You might not fall into it. So there's that option. They're not saying that you are going to fall into it. A serpent may bite him who breaks through a stone wall. I feel like all of this stuff is video game things as well. Like I'm scared, like I'm punching through a wall and all of a sudden a serpent comes out and attacks me. Not a good spot to be. He who quarries stones may be hurt with them, and he who splits logs may be endangered by them. This is all things about basically taking risks. And my brain is like thinking about all these things while I'm reading all these commentary, because nobody can agree. Like, it was very difficult that people were agreeing. There were some people were talking about, oh, well, this is definitely saying that if you're digging a pit to hurt someone, that you will fall into it. Like, you will have that thing as retribution happen to you. And then some are saying, no, it's not saying that. It's saying that if you do, you have to think of the consequences, that you could have that happen, but it's not necessarily going to happen. But you should be aware that bad things can happen if you're looking to do bad things to other people. Or are they digging a pit to hurt someone at all? Maybe it's just that you're digging a pit because you're I'm telling you, these were all the commentaries on there, and I'm reading through this and I'm looking at it, I'm going, well, these are all valid, right? Like, maybe I'm digging a pit to expand my home. I'm not or breaking through a wall to make a bigger room, right? So are you doing good or are you doing bad? It depends. So I got this whole idea of two different things. Basically, it's like a basic economics class, right? There's risk versus reward in the things that you do. And I don't want to get into economics because that's really boring. But it's like the risk versus reward, right? Like there's that thing, like I could be doing something good, but something bad might happen. I could be doing something bad and something bad might happen. So it's like all of this idea in there. So it's a very much like these verses were all kind of tied together in that like concept. And then I started looking up other verses that kind of had to do with this. So I went into Proverbs 26, verse 27. This is, let's see, where are we at? 26, 27. Whoever digs a pit for another man's feet will fall into it, and he who rolls a stone up to do mischief, it will come back on him. So you see, that's that whole, like, if you're doing this to do bad, guess what? You're going to have something bad happen. And then Psalms, what's that? Oh, Psalms 7:15 and 7:15 and 16. He has dug a pit and hollowed it out, and has fallen into the very pit which he made as a trap. His mischief will return on his own head, and his violence will come down on the top of his head like loose dirt. So that pit is covering up your violence. And then Psalms 9:15 says, the nations have sunk down in the pit which they have made. In the net which they hid, their own foot has been caught. And then Psalm 10:2. In pride and arrogance, the wicked hotly pursue and persecute the afflicted. Let them be caught in the plots which they have devised. So a lot of times pits mean bad things in the Bible. But in here, nobody could come to the conclusion. So any thoughts on pits, digging pits, and breaking through walls with serpents? No? Okay. All right. Let's move on. Let's see. Where am I at here? Okay, there we go. Ecclesiastes 10. All right. All right. Verse 10. If the axe is dull and he does not sharpen its edge, then he must exert more strength. But wisdom helps him succeed. If the serpent, here we are with serpents again, bites before being charmed, then there is no profit for the charmer. The words of a wise man's mouth are gracious and win him favor, but the lips of a fool consume him. The beginning of his talking is foolishness, and the end of his talk is wicked madness. All right. Okay. So we'll stop there for a second. So first off, sharpening the axe. Has anybody tried to cut down a tree with a dull axe? Brent?
Yes.
Did it?
It's foolish.
It's foolish.
Very foolish.
It is foolish. It's like trying to dig a pit with a dull shovel. Okay? It's like trying to, you fill in the blank, right? Ashton, you did culinary school. It's the worst with a dull knife, right?
Literally nothing worse than kitchen.
Chefs will tell you that more accidents happen because of a dull knife than a sharp knife, right? So there you go. Be wise. Sharpen your tools before using them. That could be a message all on its own right there. And then charming this. We're back up to 11 here. If the serpent bites before being charmed, then there is no profit for the charmer. Okay? We've all seen those shows, right? With the playing the clarinet or whatever, the pipe, whatever, to have the snake come up, right? I don't know how to do it. Anybody know how to charm a snake? No? I want to know. I want to meet somebody because I think that would be an awesome talent to have. I'm not going to lie. Okay? Like, you see a black racer going through your yard and you're like, "Doo-doo-doo-doo," you know? Like, you're like, all right, there you go. I don't know. I'm just being honest here. Right? So, I mean, so you want to charm the snake before it bites you, right? Because in this instance, I'm guessing the snake charmer made money from that, right? It was a sideshow, right? You're going to go to the circus and become a snake charmer. That's what I'm going to run away for. I'm going to become a snake charmer. So, you want to do that. You want to think about the things that you're going to do and prepare for them. So, there are things that I don't understand why people think them, okay? And this is another reason for it. Because you would think it's a pretty self-explanatory thing to say, sharpen an axe before you use it, right? Yeah. Or it would be foolishness to try to cut down a tree with a dull axe, right? It's foolishness. You said it yourself, Brent. So there was so much division on that because there are some people that are saying, well, is it foolishness? Because by the time I sharpen the axe, I could have used the same energy that I was using to sharpen it to cut it down. You're shaking your head no. Why? Explain.
A job done well is success.
Right.
If you have to take a long way and do a bunch of extra work to do it, it was nice to take some failure. Even if you got it done, it's still a failure.
Some would argue that the extra work is sharpening the axe. Because you have to go and sharpen it, right? Where I'm right there by the tree. Packs the quality of the job. Wow. Okay. It's the worst. Yeah, it's horrible.
And like sharpening the axe would be wise. It might take some time, but like beating a tree, not a sharp axe, it's gonna take a lot of strength and energy.
It does take extra strength. Yes, for sure. I have taken down a tree with a hammer before.
I'm not saying they're equal time-wise or whatever, they're still not equal energy-wise.
Right. Yes, ma'am.
I have a thought.
Please.
It kind of makes me think of how we are as humans, that we like to make things harder on ourselves than we have to.
Mm.
And it's like me at home, I'll get home from somewhere and I won't take my purse off my shoulder, I'll just carry it around the house, and it feels like I have bricks in my purse. So I'm like sitting here and it's like falling over and I'm like trying to keep it up on my shoulder and do these things, and my kids be like, Mom, where are you going? I'm like, nowhere. And I'm just trying to make things harder on myself. So then I take it off, I'm like, man, that makes a big difference, trying to get things done around the house and not carrying my purse on my shoulder. And it's kind of like in life, like when we try to do things without the Holy Spirit, we make things so much harder on ourselves when the Lord just speaks and we just ask Him and He helps us, and it just comes so much easier. I notice, like if I start my day right with the Lord, if I'm like praying and giving it to Him first, everything seems to flow better. And then if I don't, then everything feels harder and more overwhelming because I'm focused on the problems and not on the one who can solve all the problems. So I don't know if that has anything to do with what you're talking about.
It is. It's very well said. It's good. Brent?
Well, I think you have to put testosterone. When I was in high school, worked in the park department, I had the great pleasure of learning about horticulture, where every day for like 3 months, me and my buddy, we'd jump in this truck and we'd drive around from one flower bed to the other in the city and we'd hoe weeds. Well, having no experience in this
Did you take the 15 minutes afterwards to sharpen them?
Yes, I did, and my buddy did.
Yo. So he used your smartness to make you do extra work while he was still just chopping away. Yeah, I see how it was. Yeah, well, that's good. All right, that's fair. That is definitely fair. Anybody else before I read? No? Okay. It did. It did, for sure. Yes, please do.
Maybe just not really. Anyways, the whole charmer thing.
Uh-huh.
I think it's interesting because, like, many of, I think, yeah, they have their side gig, but they also, like, if there's a snake inside of someone's home, a poison snake, they're usually called on to remove the snake from that area because they are familiar with handling them. So,
Yeah.
no.
No, I mean, that makes sense. I've seen those documentaries, like, not the snake charmer thing, but the documentaries on India, where they're like, they just go and they pick up these dangerous venomous snakes and they throw them away, like they just toss them over to the side, and I'm like, you just threw that snake, like not just like, oh, like they just pick it up and right there. It's not no worry, no nothing. They just do it, and I'm like, there's got to be, like, I'm not picking up poisonous snakes. I'm fine with non-poisonous. I've been bitten plenty of times by venomous snakes. Was that what you were about to say?
No.
Okay.
It's not while I'm on a roll here. The women won't understand this either. Have you ever seen a woman snake charmer?
I have not. Yeah. This is not only is this Econ 101, this is Biology 101 today. We're okay. I know, okay. Proverbs. All right, you guys. Proverbs 8, the wise in heart will accept and obey commands, but the babbling fool who is arrogant and thinks themselves will come to ruin. Okay, so we're going to go on to I'm going to tie these into about wise men speaking and fools babbling here. So let's go to that real quick before I go on, because I'm pretty sure all of these have to do with that. So talks about in verse 13. We're halfway through, guys. We're probably going to make it. 13, or 12. The words of a wise man's mouth are gracious and win him favor, but the lips of a fool consume him. The beginning of his talking is foolishness, and the end of his talk is wicked madness. He's from Boston. He's wicked. It's got wicked madness. Wicked. All right. So that was a really bad Bostonian, by the way, if you didn't get that. Okay, so the words of a wise man's mouth are gracious and win him favor. That's not to say that a wise man is giving, like, flattering things and saying things that people want to hear. He's speaking truth. He's impacting the situation in a way that will find him favor. Whereas a foolish man will just do what I do right now and keep talking and filling volume, right? Or filling the air. So that's what they're going at. Basically, a fool will just keep on talking and talking and talking, and we all have friends or people that we know that are like that, right? No, we don't know fool. No, okay. You don't have to name names. It's okay. Don't point fingers if they're in the room. All right. So, wicked madness. They won't and don't say anything about anybody in politics either. All right. So that ties in with Proverbs 10:8, and I've got another one in 10 in Proverbs. 10:21 says, if I can get there, the lips of the righteous feed and guide many, but fools die for lack of understanding. Right? So fools will not understand don't have understanding, but the lips of the righteous feed and guide. So this is, again, the wisdom, the righteousness, all of that brings that around. And then in Proverbs 18:17, we have, all right, why did I have this one? The first one to plead his case seems right until another comes and cross-examines him. I don't know why I have that written down. Maybe it's the wrong one.
That is a wise statement.
It is a wise statement, though. It's true. I'm trying to remember why I had it tied into this, though. I'll just go with Peggy, you saying it's a wise statement, so we're going to go with that. And then James 4, moving up to the New Testament here. James 4:13 through 16. Come now and pay attention to this, you who say today or tomorrow will be such and such a city. You will go to such and such a city and spend a year there and carry on your business and make a profit. Yet you do not know the least thing about what may happen in your life tomorrow. What is secure in your life? You are merely a vapor, like a puff of smoke or a wisp of steam from a cooking pot, that is visible for a little while and then vanishes into air. Instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wills, we will live and we will do this or that. But as it is, you will boast vainly in your pretension and arrogance. All such boasting is evil. So, wise person knows that tomorrow is not guaranteed. A foolish person will say, this is what we're doing, and this is how we're going to get there, and this is how all this is going to happen. Right? Okay. Wrong.
Well, as wise people, we have to plan. We know it's in God's hands, so we can't just act like whatever's going to happen tomorrow will happen. You still have to have some idea of what you're going to do for the next day.
That is true, but a wise person would say, I'm making a plan, but I'm not going to hold myself to it 100%. Whereas the foolish person, and I've been on trips with these people that are like, this is what I planned, and this is what it's going to be, and I'm so mad when that doesn't happen, and they let themselves get so taken away by their anger because a plan just fell through the cracks, right? And it just went away, and now they don't have any control over it, and that's the whole thing. So that's their foolishness. They get carried away by what could not be guaranteed, basically. Let me see what this one is here. Okay. All right. Moving on. Ecclesiastes. All right. Okay, here we go. Yet the fool multiplies words, though no man knows what will happen, and who can tell him what will come after he is gone? I was tying James in with that. The labor of a fool so wearies him, because he is ignorant, that he does not even know how to go to a city. Yes, thank goodness for GPS. It saves a lot of fools some heartache, right? I'm one who will rely on GPS. Listen, I'm totally fine with that. I know how to get from one place to another, but I'd much rather have somebody else tell me how to get there. All right. Woe to you, O land, when your king is a child, when your incompetent officials and princes feast in the morning. Blessed and prosperous and admired are you, O land, when your king is a man of noble birth, and your princes and officials feast at the proper time, for strength and not for drunkenness. All right. So, 16 through 18. Solomon was a young king. Okay? He was a young prince. David ended up being a young prince. This is not anything against Josiah was a young prince, right? A young king. So there was a lot of young kings in the Bible. There was a lot of them. This is not saying this does not talking about age, okay? Age has nothing to do with it. It's talking about the age of your understanding. You know the expression that they're an old soul or something like that, or they're wise beyond their years. All of those thoughts. So this is more along the lines of that. It's not to say that a young person is either good or bad. It's saying if your prince or your ruler is living like a young fool and indulging himself in the morning, filling his belly with and becoming lazy and a sluggard and a drunk early in the day, you've got problems, right? They don't understand how to go about even a day. They go and they make themselves wasteful during the day and can't even get through the rest of the day because for important things. But it's saying, but blessed are you, O land, when the king is a man of noble birth, someone who understands the way to compose himself, someone who understands the way to do things. And your princes and officials feast at the proper time, right? They're not filling themselves up in the day. And who's gone to work in the morning and after having a really, really, really big breakfast? Chad? Do you get a lot done? No. Why not? You're worthless. I have felt the same way, right? It was explained to me at one point, farmers, you think that farmers go and they have a really big breakfast and then they go and do their work. But it was actually and I might be wrong. Maybe the person that explained this to me, and I'm willing to say that I am wrong if it is. But they would get up and they would eat something little, go do all of their work, and when they got the majority of their work done, they would go and eat something again, and then go back and finish their day. See the difference, right? You eat something small, you work hard, then you come and you eat again, and then they can rest, and then they can go back and work again at the night if they needed to. So that idea of understanding, because if you go and you go and eat a big breakfast or eat something early in the morning and you're done. I'm done. I don't want to get up again. I just want to sit here and watch cartoons like I did when I was 8, Sit down with a big bowl of cereal that emptied the whole box into a giant bowl, and that's it. That's all I did. I would make a bad prince when I was that age. Bad prince. Okay. Any comments on that? Yes.
Not necessarily on that, like we said earlier.
Okay.
We are all in an age.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But we get to choose if we're going to mature and be wise at this age.
That's true.
Because just because you're old doesn't mean you're mature or wise.
That is very true. I've met some very foolish older people. And I'm like, how did you make it to your age? Because, right? Yeah, it's no slight against them. I just question it. I go, man, my kids know better. I don't know. Okay. Let's see. Through laziness, the rafters of state affairs decay and the roof sags. And through idleness, the roof of the house leaks. The officials make a feast for enjoyment instead of repairing what is broken, and serve wine to make life merry, and money is the answer to everything. So basically this goes back into those young rulers. They're not understanding. They're seeing the things sag. They're not taking care of it in the early part of it. They're letting the leaks, they're letting the roof fail, basically, and then hoping that the system will repair itself, or that money will fix everything.
Also associated a lot with addiction and alcoholism.
Yes.
Because, they drink, and when you drink, you get stuck in there. You don't mature.
Right.
You get stuck in your behavior, you're not thinking straight. And he has a couple of references here to drinking and making wine and marry.
Yeah. Yeah, it becomes cyclical, right? You rise in the morning, you do these things, and then it goes in, and you're like, going through and through, and then it's never gonna change. It's just gonna be the same thing. All right, verse 20. Moreover, do not curse the king, even in your bedroom, and in your sleeping rooms do not curse the rich, for a bird of the air will carry the sound, and a winged creature will make the matter known. What's that? It is mystical. I'm glad somebody said that. It reminds me, I think that Tolkien got his idea for right from there. But have anybody read The Hobbit or The Lord of the Rings? Right? You've got, or watched them. You've got Gandalf who whispers to a moth, and they go and gets the King of the Eagles to come save him from the Castle Orthanc. And yes, I do know which castles that is. Or you've got the sparrow that knocks at the door, the hidden door, and goes and tells them which one it is. It's like very much that mystical thing. But I've never had the opportunity to speak with an animal or a bird or a bug and I'm glad, because I've probably said things in private that shouldn't have been said, that might have been heard, and I'm glad that they weren't. So that was, yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, exactly. John?
I think this verse is very important because it's easy to curse.
It is.
It really is. So why did you put this verse in here? Because even 2,000 years ago, people were cursing the king. You don't think you should do that, and none of them are in song. It's very hard to do. Even today, our presidents do really dumb things, and with this verse really hit me, and I said, okay, God, what do you want? Just pray for our leaders. It's hard to do.
It is. It's very hard to do, and it's this is one that people, I'm sure, wrestle with, in the sense of like, don't even do this even in the privacy of your own bedroom. Mind what you say. Yes, sir.
I think it's more for us than them.
Well, yes.
What it ends up doing is they can put bitterness and all sorts of things in us.
Right.
And heaping those curses, because then stuff like that is speaking death.
For sure.
So, I mean,
That is 100% true. Hold on 1 second while I look this up. Continue. You're good. Do you have anything else? No?
It's
Okay.
not the birds anymore, Chris. It's your kids being on Facebook.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
It's technology. Those are the little birdies. You gotta be careful.
Okay. I'm going to tie this in. What's that?
Twitter.
I was thinking that. I was going to say it. It is a bird. Thank you for bringing that up, because I was literally going to say it. Okay. Matthew 12:36 and 37. But I tell you, this is Jesus speaking, but I tell you, on the day of judgment, people will have to give an accounting for every careless or useless word they speak. For by your words you will be justified and acquitted of the guilt of sin, and by your words you will be condemned and sentenced. Aren't we all, Mary? Is there any righteous among us? Not one. Right. So, with that being said, any questions or comments about 10 that wasn't brought up? No?
It might be a day where our phones will be listening to us so much I know they already are.
I was going to say.
It's going to be used against us.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt.
And, oh, you said this about this person?
Yeah.
How do you know that? You have ways.
That made me think of something. I was getting in my van the other day to
Uh-huh.
the store, and randomly my phone's like 5 minutes to public. So that's exactly where I was going. I'm like,
How did it know?
you know that. I don't think I even said I was going to public. So that's very creepy. Are you reading my mind now?
Oh, there are things, yeah. I'm. I had an. It didn't happen to me personally, but it was someone that I know had an Alexa in their house, and the Alexa was tied in with their contacts, and somehow the people were the couple was talking in their house about someone. It called them, and the person was there on the Alexa, could hear the entire conversation, and ended their friendship because it was not good things that they were saying. And it was like, wow, watch what you say in the privacy of your own home, because it will be known, right?
That reminds me of Back to the Future with his boss. I accepted a fax message terminating. Remember that?
Vaguely, yes. Yes, Brent.
In our current day and age, of course, Solomon didn't have computers.
Right.
If you apply that to this day and age, and your example is unlimited Facebook, Instagram, any of those things. Now you go in and get a job, and you can find all
Oh, yeah.
those things that you thought was in the privacy of your home. It's on the internet.
It's forever. The internet is forever, as I say. It's crazy. I'm glad that I grew up at a time that didn't have it, because God forbid I did stupid things, said stupid things. But yes, it's crazy. Well, okay, that's all of 10. So Pastor Sean will have just a couple more chapters. A couple of announcements real quick before we close up. In starting the first week of August, we are going to be doing a men's and women's Bible study again. So let's see. Celeste should have made a post in the app of where to buy the books for those two separate Bible studies. The church will not be purchasing the books and then buying them. You could buy them from us. It's all on your own. So we are doing that. I think it's, like I said, the first week of August, first Wednesday of August. I can't think of any other announcements that I needed to do. But anybody have anything else to say? We're good. We're not going to be fools. We're not going to say bad things about our government and hastily and then leave the country. No, we're going to stick it out, and we're going to look for change, and we're going to do things, right? Okay. All right, let's pray. Jesus, we just praise you and thank you for your word. We thank you for just speaking to us through the words of a former king, or from a king, Lord, Solomon, that you would impart wisdom to him, God, and that we would be able to take that and glean from that and learn. Lord, let us not be fools. Let us understand that the things that we say, the way that we speak, the voluminous words, Lord, they're all for naught, God. Let us be able to understand and just take the time to listen and take the time to speak. And God, we just praise you and we thank you for all of the things that you have blessed us with today. We thank you for all those who are traveling, who are out, and pray that they all return safely, God. And in your name we pray. Amen. Thank you, guys.
So when is the rapture?
Why? Because there's not a bunch of people here? No, the rain happened. That's it. It always happens when it rains.
Really?
Yeah.
It wasn't that bad.
It was torrential earlier.
It wasn't that bad in my house.
Maybe not. Here it was like, it was really, really bad. Yeah.
Tired?
Well, I got 5 hours 2 nights in a row. Last night I got like 7 or 8.
I've been having those nights too.
For me, it was that I just put stuff off, and I was like up until maybe